so we will get started.
Amazing.
Welcome to the Womanhood Podcast, Samara. Oh, it's so nice. I'm so glad that you agreed to do this. Like, I feel so grateful that you
thank you.
braved the freezing cold of London. Like, it's literally snowing tonight in London. So well done, and thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So yeah, there's just so much to talk about. Obviously, just what we were talking about before we started recording. Like, I didn't even really know half of the stuff that you're doing now. There's just so much going on. So one of the first times I met you was in Ibiza, when I just had Malachi, when he was really young. Those pictures that you took of him are just amazing. Like, there's still some of like my favourite pictures of him. Are just so gorgeous. That was amazing. So that was kind of 4 years ago now, and I remember at that time you were just starting your Artogi brand.
Yeah.
Which obviously we'll talk about more. So kind of since that time and when you were starting Artogi, where's Artogi? Can you just explain a little bit about what Artogi is and kind of the journey that you've been on with that?
Sure. So for me, when I moved to Ibiza, I think when you came out, it was like, I've been there about a year, maybe. No, if it's 4 years ago, it would have been just around the time of my accident. My accident was 5 years ago. Okay. So it was about a year later that I managed to get to Ibiza. And Ibiza, for me, that space was like the sanctuary, you know, and it was just incredible, like that kind of environment where you just go and you just feel like amazingly safe and creative. And just having Artogi born there was amazing in itself, because that was like my creative space. And then Artogi was born from that. And originally it was art for yogis. Right. And how art for me has always been a therapy. So as a photographer, taking pictures, like when you're in that space, it's just like totally like you zone out and you don't think about anything else, which is obviously a good thing because you can't think about two things at the same time, you know. So that for me was incredible. And having, you know, the Artogi being born there, like it was so simple. Like one day I just had a yoga mat there with a piece of art that I wanted to flatten, and I was like, why didn't that just go on there? Like, why are there no yoga mats that have, like, why don't they look beautiful? You know, why are they always so plain? So that's how it was born. Like, that's how it started. And then it gave me something during my recovery to really focus on as well, and to heal. Obviously, with my body, I was still in my metal cast for a long period of time, and my body was healing, but my mind, as I later figured, hadn't really healed that well at all. So for me, Artogi gave me something to really focus on and grow with. So yeah, that's what, when you would have come out, that would have been about literally the baby stage of it, her growing and starting. And we're now 5 years.
5 years later.
Yeah, 4 years. 5 years since my accident, 4 years since Artogi. Yeah. So
just to kind of give people listening a little bit of idea about the accident and what kind of started that journey. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So 5 years ago, I went on holiday to Sri Lanka for a break, and ended up getting 4 breaks in my spine in a wave in Sri Lanka. And yeah, I mean, it was, at the time, it was obviously the worst thing that could have happened. And it really, you know, I was told that I wouldn't be able to walk, and I lost all sensation like under the wave. And
it's just a completely freak accident.
Just a freak accident. I wasn't surfing or anything. I was literally just swimming, and I was like up to here in the water. And yeah, just a freak wave came out of nowhere and just dropped me on my neck. And luckily, actually, I'd been doing a lot of yoga beforehand, and like it's been strengthening my neck, which if they said had I not have done, I would have snapped my neck and I would have died. So in a way, yoga had actually saved me even before I even knew. Wow. And yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where it doesn't feel like it's actually happening. But when I was underneath the water and I heard the cracks, and I remember thinking, oh my God, like what part of me is breaking? Because I didn't know, but I heard it. And then when I came up, just like, I was just totally like, my arms were up here, my chin was like to the side, and I could only kind of communicate with my eyes. And my ex was with me at the time, and he ran up because I was choking, because I'd pretty much drowned as well. I'd had this voice underneath the water say to me to stand up. I know that it hurts, but stand up. And I just managed to get myself up enough to get some air. Otherwise I would have drowned, because I think I'd been under the water for such a long time. Oh my goodness. And yeah, like I was very lucky, because 2 SAS guys were on the beach at the time, and they saw me, ran to the edge of the water. My ex was obviously screaming. He thought I was joking, being like, oh, I got hit by a massive wave, and like couldn't breathe, and he starts whacking my back. And because I was winded, all I managed to say was shade, and that was the last thing. And then basically I just lost all feeling in my body entirely, and I could only communicate with my eyes. And I just remember kind of being pulled up the beach, and there's all these people around me, and just feeling like in another world almost, because I couldn't move, and that feeling, the biggest fear was the fact that, not that I wasn't able to move again, or that I might be able to walk, or I couldn't move my body, but the fact that I was trapped in my own mind. That was the most terrifying fact for me. And that I remember it so clearly, thinking, because I wasn't in a really good space when I'd gone away either, with in my head. I was very stressed, I was feeling quite depressed, I was stressed with work, and that having that moment of like, oh my god, I'm going to be stuck in this space like a prisoner in my own mind.
Oh my god.
And that was the most terrifying thing. And I remember him putting my arms down, and the sun was like glaring on my face, and I could just see kind of all these people around me, and he just said to me, right is yes, left is no. And that's, can you feel this? I remember him putting down my arms and me just going no, with my eyes, and just tears just like running down my face. And just, I can't describe the fear, like it's just another level of fear, because I remember hearing the cracks, and that's when I then realised that it was my back, because like, or it could have been my leg or something, but I knew because it felt like it was near to my head, like I could hear it, if that makes sense, rather than hearing like a leg break or an arm break. So that was my accident.
So I mean, like what were the steps of sort of coming back from that?
Well, it took me, they misdiagnosed me. First of all, they said I wouldn't walk. I went to the Sri Lankan hospital. I waited for 3 hours by the side of the road to get picked up. Yeah, by like the one ambulance. The ambulance then came and picked me up. It was like a bus. We went round, like we picked up other people en route. Like the guy had like a head injury, he was like dripping with blood, sat on the end of my bed, and I'm like, still I can't move, and I'm just like, well, what the hell's going on?
Just the fear. It is like literally unimaginable.
It is, it's like a scary movie, but you're in it.
Yeah, exactly. The fact that you can laugh about it now, like, oh my goodness.
It's like, And then remember just getting taken to the hospital, and they, for religious reasons, my ex wasn't allowed to come into the ward with me, so he had to wait outside. And I remember just being lying there, sitting in my bikini, still covered in sand. And in Sri Lanka, like the family and whatnot bring, bedding and food and water and whatnot. And I just remember kind of being thrown around with the X-ray machines and just thinking, God, if I haven't got an injury before, I definitely do now. That type of thing. And the doctor coming in with an X-ray, holding it upside down after waiting for hours, which felt like an eternity, holding it upside down and then looking at it again, and then being like, he was holding it the wrong way around, and then basically saying no walk, and like looked at me as if to be like, I'm really sorry, and then just walked out. And I remember just lying there being like,
and you're on your own.
I'm totally on my own, and I had this fan above my head. I mean, it's like Sri Lankan hospitals is not the kind of place you really want to be in, and this fan above my head that looked like it was going to come off onto me, which you'd be terrified in any situation, let alone when you can't move and you think that you're paralysed. So and I just, something inside of me just, it was like I had this voice to say to me, just surrender, like surrender to the now. Like that's, you can't do anything about the situation. And the fear that I had and the despair when I was told that it suddenly just switched. Like I just switched it as if to be like, I surrender to what I'm being told now, and that's all, that I have to accept it. And when I surrendered to it, I suddenly felt this ultimate peace. Like it was like this wave of just calmness came over me. And after then, I have such little memory from it, because I just feel like either I went into a really deep form of meditation or something, but no one came in and gave me shitloads of drugs or anything like that. I just suddenly remember this feeling of like surrender to the now. Like when you let go of that, like you can't change what's happened. You've got absolutely no control about what's happening now. You've got no control about what's going to happen in the future, because you don't know. All you can do is surrender to now. And that really, I've got the Power of Now tattoo on my back. And I've had it for like...
Did you have it before that?
I did, and actually weirdly enough, where the breaks are is like where my tattoo is.
Oh my goodness.
So it's kind of quite crazy on that front. And I'd always had that, when I read that book, The Power of Now,
it's really
it had such a profound effect on me. And I went out and I got, literally as soon as I finished the book, the next day, I got this massive tattoo that's like this big on my back. And it's funny because for years I kind of forgotten about it, even though it made so much to me back then when I was going through a difficult time. And then suddenly it was like the universe was like, oi, remember, this is what you believe so passionately about, and now that you're going through this really hard time, the power of now, that's what you have.
That becomes your practice.
That becomes the practice. That becomes your religion almost. That for me that's been such an important part of this journey is being in the now and accepting what is. And that's, I think, with my depression, with anxiety, with all that thing, you just having that, and it sounds so simple, but it really does help. just surrendering to what is.
Yeah.
And then that fear is just like, because it's control ultimately, isn't it? Depression, anxiety, OCD, all these things that we suffer with is because we're trying to control a situation. When you take out of the control of that situation, you surrender, you don't have anything to worry about because you're not trying to control it.
Yeah.
So yeah, simple but effective.
Yeah, very powerful. Yeah.
Sorry, I got a bit sidetracked with that
one.
No,
it's amazing. Like, it's so inspiring.
So then, was getting back to the UK was quite challenging, and they didn't think I'd make it. I basically came back to landed in the UK, landed at Gatwick, and because they thought I had a hairline fracture. After they basically told me, okay, you're not going to walk. Then it was like, oh no, you will walk, and you've got a hairline fracture. They put me on in a wheel
in Sri Lanka.
They gave me a bag of medication, and I was totally off my head on meds and in a wheelchair. So like my ex and I had to make our own way back, like to the airport for like 3 days.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So as we're literally in flight, we're coming back to the UK, and as I land, I got into serious complications. I think my body had just, like, my mind had been so strong to get me back to the UK, like I knew I had to get back, that it was like so strong that my mind, that when I then got back to the UK, it was just like, it was just too much, like everything was just too much. And this is kind of condensing it quite a lot with the journey, but yeah, and then I basically had a big ambulance booked and a small ambulance by chance, by accident. The insurance company had booked a big ambulance. Luckily, thank God that they had, because when I got there, I got into serious complications. They had to cut off my leather jacket, and I was basically stabilised on the tarmac for 2 hours before we were allowed to move the ambulance. And then I got rushed to Red Hill because I didn't think I'd make it to London. And I got put on a ward with all women, and this is the amazing thing, this ward was all women, and it was the one that didn't have a TV in. And this ward, it was something so magical about it. Like, some of these women were on their last days of their lives, and we just built this amazing kind of community I think I was in there for about 8 weeks in total.
Oh really?
But they wrote me this amazing book after, but they saw my whole journey, and we just spoke so much in that element of sharing, and listening, and I just felt so like the universe had put me in that space, for a reason, like not any other ward, because that had guys in it or whatever, like and a TV, and everyone was a bit silent and no one got on, and even the nurses would come in and be like, this ward has just got something to it, like it's got a magic here, and it was incredible. My mum, bless her, slept by my bedside for like that whole time, and refused to go, and she became matron for the ward, and it was a very difficult, challenging time, but through that period I literally meditated every day and visualized walking, visualized it so strongly, because there was a week when I got back to the UK that they thought, when I actually got wheeled in, they thought I'd broken my neck, and they couldn't believe they couldn't understand how I'd been allowed to fly in that state. And they couldn't believe that I'd actually managed to physically get back on my own in that state. Like, it was just like, what, this unheard of. Exactly. And so when I basically came into the hospital, they then just said to me, she hasn't broken her neck. I had a week of waiting to find out if I'd walk again. So being told, you're not going to walk, you're going to walk, you're not going to walk, you're going to walk. So messing my mind, it was just like, oh my God, what? To then, waiting for a week to find out that I was going to walk again. And during that time, I remember just, I wanted to get out of London anyway, because I'd kind of been planning that before the accident happened, but just as a space to go to, like, come back and forth to London from, and that place was Ibiza. So that place that you saw, that you came to stay at, was, I'd actually seen that, and got a friend of mine was like, look babe, I found this incredible space, I know that you've obviously had a really horrific accident happen, are you still interested? And I was like, yes, but obviously it's going to take a lot longer for me to be able to get there now, but what is the space? I'm interested to see. And the first picture that gets sent through is that angel holding the shell in the wall, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's my space. That's it. That is the sanctuary. And just looking through it, and the fact it was owned by two eccentric artists, and I don't know if you remember, but all the artwork was of like goddesses. And it was all of goddesses, and the cherubs and the angels, and it had that real feminine and the massive.
I've got that picture that you took of me with Malachi, and I think I'm naked holding Malachi in front of
I've still got it on my phone. I looked at before I came here.
I love that picture.
It's amazing. It's gorgeous. It just had that magic, didn't it? That space, it was just on another level. And so like that whole thing, even like the painting above my bed that they'd drawn, that the two artists who owned it had drawn, was this like goddess holding like a baby in her arms, like with the wings and things. It was just And that for me,
nurturing space.
yeah, exactly. And just as soon as I saw that, I was like, just visualised being able to walk and be in that space and being healing and being there. And that's what was my goal, you know. And I think it's so important when you're going through a difficult, challenging time to set a goal. Yeah. So you have something, you're still being present, you're still living in the now. And yet, but you're working towards something. Like, what is it? What's your purpose? What are you waking up for in the morning? You know, what's really making you tick? Yeah. And that's something that it's easy to lose when you get kind of depressed and whatnot, and you get low. It's easy to forget that, and it just seems like the future's quite bleak. So that's a really important part for me. Yeah. Then I had on Valentine's Day, 2 weeks later, when I literally took my first steps, and the doctors were like, it was like incredible, like how that happened.
It was 2 weeks.
2 weeks after breaking my back in 4 places, and so it was kind of, that was pretty full on. Yeah,
definitely sounds it. Yeah, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So you found yourself in Ibiza then, and so what were you doing for work and everything at that point, kind of before the accident, and then?
So for work, I was, at the time of the accident, I had a pop-up shop business, a business, that I then at the same time as my accident lost.
Oh, okay.
So after my accident happened, I basically 2 weeks later I took my first steps, which was incredible. The fact I managed to manifest doing that, and then I was in like bed rest for then quite a long time after that, because it was like, right, you've done it, you've showed that you can walk, like you know, you need to kind of lay back down again, which was fine, but that feeling of being kind of stuck laying down for such a long period of time was definitely very challenging, because when you're laying flat for such a long period of time, like your body actually stops working because your body needs gravity to work. So that kind of element of it is
so so many different
difficult.
layers.
There's so many different things. Exactly. So as soon as I was better, I basically flew to Ibiza, still with my cast on and whatnot. But at the same time, I lost my business that I built with a friend of mine, and split up with my boyfriend, and had my back broken. So I was physically, emotionally, like mentally, like just broken in every which way. And that feeling of like, I definitely hit rock bottom. And even though I'd just gone through this horrific ordeal with my back and my accident, it was like the surrounding stuff that then happened in my personal life as well, like on top of that. And at the time, I remember feeling like at the time it had broken me. And I didn't want to admit to it, because I was like, no, you know, I'm not, I've walked again, you know, I've done this, I'm not going to let, you know, my heart break, or the fact I've lost my business, all these things, it should be so menial. But the problem is, your heart is like, as women, like that's the biggest thing, that's what runs us, right? And when people really underestimate a heartache, you know, a heartbreak, like it can destroy you, it can totally destroy you, and it can break you. And so for me, that was a really difficult time, because I was trying to be too strong and be like, I'm fine, the whole perfect thing. Yeah, it was all good. Aren't I amazing? I walked, and, you know, And then it was like, my mind gradually over time was like, nah, we're not cool. You know, your body's healed, but we're far from it. Like, you know, like the mind isn't healed. And that's what then really the journey for me kind of opened up with my own journey with mental health. Because I noticed that, you know, I'd gone away on holiday at the beginning because I was suffering with anxiety, stress. I was drinking too much in the job that I was in advertising, and that for me was like masking. Like, it was just like a normal thing, you know, like working in fashion, like working in advertising. It's just like, oh, that's, you know, you drink, that's a normal thing for me. But I found that it was helping my anxiety. You know, having red wine would chill me out. But before I knew it, like, I'd be getting home and I'd just be having like a few glasses of wine, if not more, every night, and it just became a normal thing. And that got more and more and more, and then before I knew it, I was like, shit, that's why I went away, you know, because I was so stressed and whatnot. I needed to have that time out. But then when I'd obviously then everything had happened as well, on top of that, there I was living in Ibiza, like in this beautiful place, being like, why aren't I feeling happy? You know, like I'm in this amazing space, and yes, at the time it was incredible and it healed me, but as I said, more of the physical form, and the art was such an incredible thing, and that was a really healing form for me. But I hadn't looked at a lot of kind of deeper stuff that was going on for me. So I realised that with regards to making myself feel happier, I needed to start shooting again.
Right,
so that, you know, looking at art as therapy, like picking up my camera and like, you know, doing the shoot that we did, like being able to do that again was
so
just
would you not been doing the photography at that point?
I wasn't
because
able
of the
to,
accident, so you've been doing it up until you went away.
I'd kind of been doing bits of photography, but I'd worked in advertising, and then I had my pop-up shop company, so I'd kind of I'd stopped doing my art and creating and gone into like making money mode and working in advertising, which is still cool and creative, but very much more focused on, I call it adulting, which, you know, just like grown up jobs, you know, and I'm like,
because I remember we actually shot when you had your brace. I think it must have been before you moved. It was when I was pregnant. So that was that just after your accident. So maybe you still had the brace on your back and everything.
My Robocop look.
My goodness.
I'm funny because I go out and people would look at it and they'd be like, "Is that a necklace?" I'm like, "What, the big metal thing around my neck?" No, it's not.
Oh my goodness.
So kind of picking that up again and like shooting women, you know, and like just being able to express myself through art and capture that beauty, and it just realised, it just reinforced for me so much about how art is so healing. It really is. Like, you know, art can be in our everyday lives everywhere we look, from the art of doing yoga to the art of sharing to the art of listening to the art of nutrition to you know, all these things that like bring life to art, which is my Artogi strapline. And it's funny because at the time when that came up, it was like, I don't know where it came from, but it wasn't like, everyone's like, yeah, but you're just like yoga mats, you know? And I'm like, yeah, but I always had a bigger vision for it, but I didn't know what the vision was. And it's taken me this amount of time to really, for Artogi to grow into what it is now. And it's taken this amount of time and not giving up with her. So I kind of gone sidetracked off a little bit on that. But
definitely. So then you started picking up your camera again, but it was a kind of like, it was a different thing that you wanted to shoot then. A different inspiration. And then what direction did you go with the photography? Because I know kind of before we started recording, we were talking about this whole idea of people want to be seen as perfect on social media, and for you working in the fashion industry, that just didn't feel right anymore. So kind of how did that journey develop?
So after kind of I'd been able to get better and start shooting again, I had this thing in my mind where I loved being in Ibiza. It was incredible. And after kind of about, I think it was 2 years of being in Ibiza, I couldn't handle doing the winter months there. It was too cold and rainy. So I was like, what can I do that's going to make me be able to travel around the world, go to beautiful places and shoot photography? So I was like, I know, swimwear. So that's what I did. I basically went to Barcelona, lived there for like 5 months, went to Cape Town, lived there, and just travelled around shooting swimwear. And it was absolutely awesome and incredible. But what I realised I was doing was two things: trying to chase the sunshine and the beach and the environment, thinking that was gonna like make me happy, and moving, not being able to settle in one place. Like as soon as I get there, I'd get from one place to the next, and I'd be there for a little while, and then soon it's like the dark demons would kind of come in and be like, we're still here, and you know, it's like wherever you are, there you'll be.
Exactly, that's the thing. You can move yourself physically, but like you're talking about your mindset, like you're always going to be in your own mind.
Exactly.
You can distract yourself with the sun and with things, you know, for a while, but definitely with that. Exactly,
and that was a huge lesson for me on that front, because I'd always kind of done that. I'd always been moving from one to the next, and like, I'm bored of that, this, that, and my attention span on things, you know, just in general, always, like that was very much who I was. And I realised that now I've learned that it's because I was never being able to be present, you know. I was always wanting something else to distract me from how I was actually feeling. And then on the other side of it as well, what I learned from it was when I lost a friend of mine through suicide, through depression, and basically like comparing herself to people on social media. She's a beautiful girl, used to model, and it was really sad, and it really triggered something for me about the whole retouching thing and putting, you know, changing body images and stuff. I mean, it just made me feel, I started doing these shoots, and then it would be the retouch elements would be like the shoot element and then the retouch side of it. So it's like two entities in itself, because there was so much work that was also going into the retouching side. When I started out, it wasn't like that. You know, you just took a picture, and it was because you took a picture and it looked amazing, you know. Whereas now it's like you have some photographers that they don't even actually really, you know, technically shoot that well. They put it on, you know, auto, and then it's like raw, and then but they're amazing retouchers. So then it's like, so that whole retouching thing really, like, almost like two jobs in one. So when I started doing that, I started just feeling like this real resistance, especially after losing my friends. So I was like, what am I doing? I'm putting out these images of women that aren't real. I mean, yes, of course they're gorgeous and they're beautiful. I'm not saying that they're not, but it was just, why should I have to be changing this or this bump here or that there or making the legs longer or this or that? And and like just every shoot that I did, it became more and more resistance, and that started triggering stuff for me within my own self of like stepping up and making a difference. You know, you want to see change, you've got to be the change. And that's what I really then, when I came back to London, I made a decision. I was like, right, that's it, I'm going to come back to London and just really look at myself and honestly take a hard, good look at myself, because I was not in a good space. I was drinking way too much again. I'd masked it. I felt like I'd hit rock bottom. I didn't know what direction I was going in. I had a yoga brand, but I was so far from being holistic. It was a joke, you know, and this thing of just this fakeness and this, what I was putting out on social media compared to what was actually going on behind closed doors, different story, you know. And just then having that podcast that I did, Fellow Succeed, where I just embraced the power of vulnerability and just shared my journey, and suddenly all these doors just opened. It's like the universe was like, well done.
That's what we've been waiting for.
That's what we've been waiting for. This whole journey that you've been on and this whole like experience is because of this. Like, you now have to put this all into something good, and it comes from sharing and showing that you're not perfect, and that we're not all perfect. You know, I'm not saying that everyone's had my own experiences, and that's fine because everything's relative, but when I shared that podcast, I was so terrified of putting it out, and just with that judgment, my limiting self-belief of what people would think of me, and it was hard, and it was really something I had to sit with. And then as soon as I did it, I remember just pressing it and being like, it's out there now, and then just like I couldn't even look at my Instagram or anything for days. I just left it because I was like, oh god, you know. And it was that feeling of then, like, the thing is, it's like the judgment, and you're like, who's liked it, who said what, this, that, and that fear of like, I literally felt sick, and I was like, wow, look how much you care, you know. And that's the thing, it's like, it's quite incredible to think how much we value our self-worth by what other people think on social media.
Social media's got a lot to answer for. I mean, it's such a positive tool in so many ways, but I just, like you say, the pressure of social media and having to be seen in a certain way and having to be portrayed as perfect, it's just like, and the majority of it isn't even real. You know, people are retouching their own photos. It's not even like a photographer doing it. People have just got certain apps to make themselves look a certain way.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. And I mean, I've heard, because of probably I'm now in this space, it's very much in my psyche at the moment, but I mean, everywhere I seem to go, I hear people talking about social media and the negative effect that it's having on them. And yes, granted, it has its benefits of when you're running a business, like that's, you know, you can get a lot of marketing from it. I totally appreciate that. But then, I mean, I had two girls having a conversation next to me the other day, and they were talking about how this girl her friend had face-tuned some of her birthday pictures, so much so to make her look like she'd lost weight, that she didn't want to see her friends in real life because she felt that they were going to judge her that she hadn't lost the weight.
Oh my goodness.
And this was an actual reality for her, that she didn't want, and this is the problem, this is what happened as well to like other people that I know that have had that similar experience. And then that was where isolation comes in. You don't want to leave the house, you don't and the other thing I heard someone say is, wow, you look so different in real life. This is what we're getting to. We're getting to this world where we're going to have real life,
exactly,
you and me here, and then this our online profile where that's not even real, and this persona that people are putting out, and this
then
face
the pressure to like live up to that, like you say, so like I'm not going to leave the house because people will think that
exactly,
it's crazy.
It is crazy.
And younger people as well, like that's a big thing that I've been seeing, that like, you know, on social media, such young beautiful girls feeling this pressure to look a certain way. Like when we were young, we didn't have that pressure, and even being a young girl, you've got to like navigate through all of the hormonal changes and puberty and like all the pressures of being a girl anyway, or just being young.
It's hard
enough
as it is.
On social media, I'm like, I can't even imagine how like bad it must be and how difficult it must be.
And also that attachment that we have, I just went to look for my phone and I don't have it, great. But that attachment that we have to our phone, and it's totally like we're not being connected. You know, we're not being connected. When we're being distracted, we're looking at that thing is just basically it's a discontinuation of us generally half the time, isn't it? And if you're constantly online doing selfies, putting like stories out, you're not being present in the now. And what I spoke about earlier is like that main thing of being now, being present, being connected to source at this moment. That's not being on that phone.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're there scrolling mindfully through, like you're just literally detaching yourself from yourself to this phone, to this electronic device. And I've really noticed for me now, if I'm feeling like I'm feeling a bit wobbly or unbalanced, the first thing I'm like, phone. Away, airplane mode, off, whatever it is. Like I've got a flip screen on mine now because I don't even like having the light like interfering with me. I will check my phone when I need to. Generally half the time I have my notifications off. Phone calls, if it's urgent, people know to call me. That's it. Because it's just got so much, you know.
It's become an addiction. It is literally an addiction for people. Like you just pick it up, you might 2 seconds later pick it up again and nothing's even on there. It's just become such a habit. And like you say, it disconnects you even from the people who you're around. You know, like I see people out at dinner on the phones, like you're not even interacting in the real world.
Exactly.
It's such a strange thing, social media, just in general, isn't it?
It really is.
Like,
leading on from that is I set up I'm just done like a neuroscience coaching degree as well. That was another thing that I came back to London for.
So when did you come back to London?
So I came back to London in July. July. And it's weird, it seems like a lifetime ago that I came back, and I'm like, it was July.
Like you're doing so much. I was just like, I don't know how you fit it on into the last 4 years since we did that too.
And my domain is thepowerofimperfection.me. And I love that because first of all, I found thepowerofimperfection.com was gone. And then I was like, thepowerofimperfection.me, I was like, that's even better, that's perfect. And it is because my clientele of the women that I'm working with now are you know, grade A, high achievers, always want to be perfect, a kind of addictive personality, whether it's OCD or whatever it might be, artist, creative, amazing at what they do. And it's just that whole kind of sphere that we're in of these incredible women that we're surrounded by that just puts too much pressure on ourselves, trying to be perfect. And the thing is, with social media, that is like one of our biggest things that thrives on that. So part of my coaching practices, there's a big element of it is disconnection from your phone. And the retreats and whatnot that I'm going to have coming up is very much about leave the phone, like put it in the box.
Exactly.
We are literally being present right now. You know, like no phones, no selfies, no socials, like leave it. And it's funny, like you see people's reaction to when you're like phones away, like put them on airplane mode or put them over there, and it's like, but what if what if there's an emergency? It's like, well, when you're on a flight, someone can't get hold of you, you know, and it's like, but it's that the body, and that body going, no, I need it, and it's
attachment.
It's quite scary, really.
Definitely. And like you say, that kind of connection to your phone shows the lack of connection in other parts of your life. So any addiction really is a kind of lack of connection.
100%.
So it's kind of like, where's that coming from, and how can we focus on that and the source of it, rather than just masking it with all of these things and addictions to any number of other things.
100%. You know? I'm reading a book at the moment called Lost Connections, and it's so interesting. It's about, you know, addictions and how ultimately addictions, it's about not having that connection. It's not, it's feeling, you know, a lot of addictions come from loneliness, loss of connection with source, feeling of being an outsider, feeling of hopelessness, feeling, you know, and it's all based around connections. And they did I think it was in Portugal, I'm not sure, don't quote me on the facts, but they did a research into Portugal of how people, instead of with people who were struggling with addictions, instead of all the money that they were pumping into punishing them and putting them in jail and whatnot, they actually put the money into building workshops where they could actually connect with other people, where they could get help for getting jobs, or they could, you know, really like actually supporting them and connecting with them. And now their issues with addictions and drug dependency is like dropped by about 50%.
Wow.
And now they don't even have a problem with it because they changed their approach.
Exactly. And there's just not that support for people.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously that's kind of what you're doing now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So kind of your, like, what the direction that Artogi's going in, and obviously with your coaching and the circles that you run, have those developed over the last few months, and which direction do you see yourself going in with those?
So for me, it's with the looking at art as therapy. Artogi is very much the message. It's like a creative lifestyle brand for a better mindset, and then bringing life to art, like I mentioned before. So, but looking at the kind of 3 key areas. Speaking back to my little necklace, but like with the mind, the body, and the soul, and how, you know, to be in balance, you have to have those 3 key things in balance. And even if one of those falls out, like the rest go wobbly, and that's when you start feeling like, for me, you know, with regards to the minds, like my morning meditations, my mindfulness, to the body, to, you know, I used to work out really hard and do my HIIT classes and be like, if I'm not in agony and sweating nose and I haven't done a workout, and making sure my heart rate was like through the roof, which actually is just raising my cortisol, raising my stress, raising my anxiety, which triggers my depression, which means I don't sleep. You know, so these things, when actually slow it down, slow your heart rate down, do more yoga, do more resistance, swim, long walks, calming music, things that's actually going to make your body calmer, cutting out sugar, all these things that I've just gone and documented, which has been, for my journey, what's helped me. So I'm now building these into plans as part of my coaching practice with women. I'm calling them the Phoenix Plan, so that they can look at all 3 key areas in their life. And then they'll get weekly coaching by me as well. So it's like a 12-week plan. This is like one of the kind of options with my coaching element of it. And then the Artogi, the workshops as well, which is very much about kind of coming offline and being connected. Because, you know, like we were discussing, that whole feeling of there's so much stuff going on online, which is great too, for, if, you know, people for raising awareness, brilliant. Like we'll listen to this on, you know, online, so there's got those elements, which is fab. But as and when we can, like you with your sharing circles, it's really important, I think, that people and women can feel like they've got a safe space and environment to come and share and to come and talk about things. Because in my experience, when I was going through my hard time, I went to the doctors and I was told, you know, here's some antidepressants and you can't see a therapist for like 6 months. I was like, at the time I was like, I don't feel like I've got 6 months. Like I'm feeling so low. Like and I don't want to take antidepressants. I know that in my opinion it's bullshit, you know? And how that's what led me on this journey of self-discovery through healing, of like, how can I teach myself, how can I heal myself? And that's what I did. That's why I spent like the last, say, 5 years now since my accident, is documenting it, and every day writing and researching and trying this and trying that. And I tried every diet under the sun, but then I was like, no, I'm trying it for my body. I'm doing these diets and these quick fixes that are fixing my body. Well, not fixing, because you know, just you lose weight and then I put it straight back on again. I needed to start in my mind. I needed to go there, start with that, and then everything else falls into place. You know, your mind is so powerful.
So that was kind of your starting point.
Yeah. It was like the food that I eat, from the, you know, the natural supplements that I take, for you know, my fish oils, to turmeric for inflammation, because a lot of depression is caused from that. And, you know, all these things that I didn't know about, and that's what I'm now teaching and helping as part of my coaching plan.
So did you find all those things yourself, just online from information and trial and error, and just what worked for you?
Like I read, I mean, Patrick Hawford's book, he's got an incredible one.
I love that book. What's it called? The Optimum Nutrition Bible.
Optimum Nutrition Bible, and he's done one for the mind as well. So that looks at all your natural supplements that you have for, and I know now as well, like with my, you know, taking magnesium, things like that, like, and there's so much that we can do when it comes to, like, you know, you're so into all that stuff, and you can see the benefits of it, but we don't get taught this.
Exactly.
You know, and this is
like
so important.
These things that actually empower us. Like you say, you just go to the doctor and you just give you pills.
And generally, like when you have, for women, like our biggest triggers are hormones. You know, when you're out of hormone imbalance, that's when the mind starts going a bit funny, because those hormones are so powerful. And I know for me, like the week before my period, I'm like, and I know what I need to up, I know what I need to lower, you know, all these things. And it's like, but that's taken that time of balancing it and getting it right. And my biggest one was cortisol. So I was a highly stressed person and quite anxious, always like trying to be perfect, wanting to succeed, next. My cortisol levels were through the roof, and the cortisol is the stress hormone. And the stress hormone, which is found in red meats and whatnot, is obviously when the animal dies, as you know about, and then you're then eating that. So when you're highly stressed, your cortisol levels are through the roof, which is a main trigger for anxiety and depression and for insomnia. And that actually causes excess weight and excess fat around your middle area, around like your abdomen area, around your liver. So when you actually slow down, and also the sugar, when your insulin drops, you're then, when you get an insulin spike, that cortisol level, because it's like the fear state, isn't it? So all of these correlation between the two. So your sugar and your cortisol levels play such a big impact. And when I looked at balancing those out, which is what the plans that I'll be doing for women, is you suddenly notice, and you're like, wow, and I wasn't even it wasn't like I had to really try really hard. I lost 4 kg in body fat alone in 12 weeks, and that was just from balancing like my sugar, cortisol, and like the water retention in my body went, like all these things. cellulite, like all these things, like toxins in my body suddenly was like like just went, and it was not saying it was easy, but it wasn't like I put myself with this really hard training regime.
It was much softer approach rather than right, okay, if you don't like yourself, let's work harder in the gym. And,
you know, go hard or go home.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was always my mentality very much. And like, look, I had personal training sessions with a friend of mine who was great because again, it's having that, you know, for me, I do enjoy my weight training as well as doing yoga, but I wasn't doing hardcore cardio all the time. Like I used to run so much and put my body, and it was really like it was like a stress thing that I was always doing. Like instead of being like be kind to yourself, it was like, oh no, let's just work really hard and punish yourself. And if you're not aching the next day, then you haven't done it properly.
Hard enough,
and it was like that thing of when you then ache the next day, your body muscles, your body craves carbohydrates, it's craving sugar. All these things, and when I then cut out the booze, which we discussed about earlier, and my sugar cravings were huge, and it was like, hang on, there's a real correlation here between the red wine and sugar. Oh yeah, because red wine is full of sugar. So when I cut the red wine out of an evening, I find myself just like craving Haribo or any kind of sweets. And I noticed in my diet before that I was thinking I was being super healthy, having loads of bananas, having mangoes, having pineapples, when actually that's spiking my sugar, spiking my insulin, raising my cortisol, and then running really fast because I think, oh, I've had a banana, I want the energy. And all I'm doing is asking my body to be like this, on high performance mode all the time. When actually all it wants to do is just chill, you know, chill and process and like go on a more balanced thing. So, and I think as you get older as well, like especially for, you know, I'm 35 in June, and having, you know, being kinder and slower to the body, like my bones and my joints, they're not what I used to be, but that's something you don't know later, but it's true, you know.
It's true.
I feel it.
You need to look after yourself all the way through, you know, otherwise you're going to regret it later.
Exactly.
It's so important. Like I've been looking a lot more into like restorative yoga and yin yoga and things recently. Like I don't teach those, but I do, like my own personal practice is much slower than it used to be, especially since I've been doing like pregnancy yoga training and things like that. We learn a lot about restorative yoga because it's so important to rest. You know, people don't take the time to rest because, like you say, you get an hour to work out and it's like, right, I want to work out, I want to hit the gym, I want maximum performance. And then you think, okay, so where's the motivation for those things coming from? Is it because you want to be able to look a certain way to then post on social media? So it's this like vicious kind of cycle. I mean, I know obviously exercise makes people feel good, but actually, like you say about these cortisol levels, if you're not in balance, how good you actually feel in the mind, you know, and then that has a knock-on effect on your body and everything, so it's all kind of interlinked. So in terms of your diet, I mean, you've kind of touched on it a little bit, how has that changed to be in this more sort of holistic way now and kind of reducing the cortisol? What does your sort of diet look like now? Is it more kind of intuitive eating?
It's a lot of intuitive eating, but also looking at, because now I've got a routine, so the plans that I put together with my nutritional plans, so one of the big things that I had is in the morning is my apple cider vinegar, hot water, lemon, having that first and foremost, because that's really good, and putting some like pink Himalayan salt in with it, because that kickstarts your adrenal glands, so that's always really helpful with the cortisol levels as well. And it basically is just, you know, the benefits of apple cider vinegar, it's incredible. So having that first thing in the morning, letting that sit, and I'll do some meditation, like my morning practice is super important. I kind of always involve that around my food as well. So like my morning practice will be having my hot water, lemon, apple cider vinegar, pinch of Himalayan salt in the morning. Whilst I'm having that and letting that settle, I'll do my meditation, write 3 things that I'm grateful for, I am that I am, read a chapter or page, however long I've got, of the Power of Now, and my Tao meditation. So I'll do, that's kind of my morning routine. And you know, okay, granted we don't always have time to do it, and I appreciate that we have busy lives, but I notice when I don't make the time for it, it's, I wish I had. Absolutely. You know, and even if you don't have the time to write in your gratitude book before, you know, you get out of bed and your feet hit the ground, say 3 things you're grateful for, even if it's a mental note. And if you don't have time to write in I am that I am, you know, you're putting it out there to the universe. What are you? Is it financial abundance you're wanting? Is it calmness for a talk you're going to be doing? Whatever it is, you know, putting it out there, setting that intention, I think is so important. And And then for me, I was always having so much coffee.
Right.
So much coffee. I mean, you can laugh about it too. Yeah, I've had 2 coffees before I got here, and I was laughing at you saying, I won't have cacao because I'm going to be buzzing, but that's fine. But, you know, even then, accepting that and owning up to that. You know, like I say,
and
like,
being okay that it's sometimes I'm going to have a coffee.
Sometimes I'm going to want a coffee, and that's fine. But I was having 5 coffees a day. Right. You know, generally, like I'd have 1, 2 in the morning, a couple in the afternoon, and then 1 if I was like, you know, tired. And that would be my, I'm tired, I need a coffee. That was my thing. Rather than I'm tired, let's look at why I'm tired, let's up my complex carbohydrates, let's drink more water, you know, these kind of things that let's like balance my blood sugar levels, which I've learned how to do. So for me, switching from coffee to green tea was really important, and then only having a couple of green teas in the morning, or having your caffeine hits in the morning, not having them throughout the day, because that again is relying on your adrenal glands, which is then like pushing out
sleep as well. I'm reading a book at the minute called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and it is just blow my mind to the importance of sleep, and how I think like coffee or caffeine, like it has a half-life of something like 8 hours, which basically means that half of it will be out your system in 8 hours. It has a quarter life of 12 hours, so you've still got a quarter of it in your system 12 hours later. So if you have a coffee at like 10 in the morning, you're trying to go to bed at 10, and at night it's like having a quarter cup of coffee at 10 at night, so of course you're not going to sleep.
Exactly.
You know, so it's, but then people train their bodies to sleep on that caffeine, and then you're not getting actually like your deepest level of sleep, so you're not feeling rested, so then you wake up the next morning, you need a cup of coffee to get your day going again, and then the cycle just continues. It
is. Caffeine is a big one, and also with, you know, anxiety, if you're feeling anxious, the last thing you want to be having is caffeine, and it is hard, same as sugar, you know, both of those two, they're like the devil really, and when you cut that out, it's so difficult at the beginning. I was literally laying in bed dreaming of chocolate. Like it was so bad.
Did you not eat any, like, I mean, are you talking about refined sugar there, or
refined sugars? And then also with sorry, I should have gone a bit more specific with that. So still having some sugars in your diet. So for example, like with the fruits, I used to have a lot of white fruits, or bright fruits as they call it. So the bananas, the mangoes, the pineapples, which are really high sugar fructose. Whereas now I'll have, like in my morning shake, I'll have frozen blueberries, strawberries, dark fruits, lemons, limes in my water. But that's pretty much when it comes to fruit wise. Like I'll give myself, like, this is when I'm talking about now, like the plans wise, this is like for the 12-week plan that I'm doing, and if you're kind of the Phoenix plan of like resetting. But now, as I said, like because I'm kind of at this good point with it, I can go, and if I fancy having the banana, if I want to have one, I can, but I won't have it. Before, I was literally having a banana in my smoothie every day. First thing in the morning, banana in the smoothie, and that's actually raising your glucose levels really high.
And I find, because at the minute I'm back on eating bananas in my, I have like half a banana in my smoothie every morning. And I went through a phase of not having any bananas or any kind of high sugar fruits, and I did feel a lot better. And then when I started having bananas again, I could feel such a difference, and I've kind of got back into that habit. But like you say, it's kind of like swings and roundabouts. You sort of go through these different things, don't you? But this is definitely motivating me to get rid of the banana again.
Just stick to your dark fruits. So it's like Patrick Orford again, it's the Low GI Bible. So looking at your glycemic load index. So, you know, bananas are very high on the chart. And it's, again, with the plans that I'm doing, it's just simplifying all of that, because I know, because I've gone and done this and like researched it and done myself as a human guinea pig for 5 years. I don't expect other people to have done that. And it's for me, the plans that I'm doing as part of my coaching is for women like us, really, ourselves, who've kind of been through that. And it's also difficult, I think, when you have tried to be vegan for a long period of time, and it's what works for you. You know, that's another thing, is keeping that in mind. Again, bringing back to don't try and be perfect. Like don't try and copy what someone else is doing.
Absolutely,
if it doesn't work, amend it slightly, tweak it. But as long as you know the fundamentals of being aware of what, you know, these fruits can do, and just seeing how different you feel.
Exactly. It's really like with yoga practice is just listening to your body, listening to the messages, because your body intuitively knows. But it's about being honest to what it's saying to you, and then taking action from that.
And an important part of that as well is journaling. You know, because if I hadn't have journaled through this period of time, I wouldn't have remembered all of this. You know, and there's been times when I've been like, oh, what was that person who spoke about this? Oh yeah, and I literally put it into my Evernote, and it comes up, and then it's like, there's my information. You know, but then also I've done throughout this journey, it's like private YouTube videos of just talking and sharing, and it's so nice to look back, you know, those years ago, and just compare even how you're feeling to then. Like it feels partly like I'm literally a different person to that person back then who was so depressed, so unhappy in herself, you know, and it's quite sad to watch some of them, you know, and just I'm almost like I want to reach out to that person and be like, it's okay, you know, and that's kind of what I'm doing now, and that's what my mission is, to reach out to those women who are feeling like that, and there is a way out, you know. It might feel so shit at the time, and especially if your heart's hurting, and that's the thing with this, you know, my kind of plan is calling it, instead of recovery, because there is still stigma around recovery, calling it Phoenix. You know, it's like you've risen from the ashes and you're back stronger than ever, and I think that's a really powerful kind of term for it. And it's like why do we have that stigma around saying recovery? You know, it's funny because it's like, again, we're trying to be perfect. Everyone's meant to be perfect, and we're not. You know? Exactly. And that's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Just accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing, beautiful. Carry on. So, just kind of as we're sort of finishing up the last few minutes, what's your kind of future goals? What direction are you headed in?
So future goals will be to continue with my coaching. So I'm literally in the process of graduating at the moment. So just literally bought the domain name, as I said, the powerimperfection.me, putting together and putting out there my plans for women. And then Artogi, very much focusing around art as therapy. So it's not just about the yoga mats now, it's very much more of a grander scheme of things. So be looking at doing events, workshops, hopefully working with yourself as well, and retreats, and vision is a much kind of larger scale of art as therapy, and that how the space and the environment, and teaching how to, you know, heal yourself really, because it's all well and good going away on these amazing retreats and, you know, drinking green juices and doing incredible yoga and being surrounded by great people, but then when you come back and it's back to reality, and it's like then it's like within a couple of days you're like the stresses and strains of everyday life that we have to get on with, and it's like I want to help women to learn how they can educate themselves to make themselves better through the 3 key areas of their life, and mind, body and soul, that whole kind of package into one. So it's a lot to do, but I'm excited about the journey, and it's like, you know, and Artogi and my coaching now is really, that was my purpose. You know, that's been my purpose. That whole thing that I've been through, I genuinely believe, is because it's led me to be here now. And I think, again, going back to that purpose of what is it that makes you tick? What makes you get up in the morning? What is, if you don't know what that is, really spend some time to think about it. You know, is it a passion that you haven't done for ages? Is it being creative? What is it? You know, and really work on that and getting that spark back, because, you know, life is too short. It really is too short. So yeah, I think that's wrapping it up on that.
Yeah, definitely. Just final kind of question, if what advice would you give to, you've kind of summed it up anyway, but just to kind of sum up sort of some key points, what advice would you give to women now who are listening to this, who feel like they can resonate with your story, but there may be kind of a few years where you were a few years ago, like what kind of key sort of take home points would you give to people to move forward?
Key take home points, power of now, living in the moment. If you haven't read the book, read the book. To really look at the kind of 3 key areas that are in balance: your mind, your body, and your soul. Like those really important parts. A sense of purpose. You know, even the vision boards. Get the vision boards up. Get visualizing. What is your dream? What do you want? How does it feel? How does it look? Who's your perfect partner? How is it? You know, all these things. Like, it's so powerful. Like setting that intention. And I think the purpose side of it, just what are you working towards, and I think giving back too, you know, doing things for others is a really important part, you know, just sharing, and the power of imperfection. It's okay not to be okay, and stop trying to be perfect. I think it's probably around it.
Definitely, absolutely. That's a perfect way to end it. So, if people want to get in touch with you or want to work with you, how can they do that?
So, coaching website is thepowerimperfection.me, and the creative lifestyle brand is Artogi. And then my photographer one is Samara Morris Photographer.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Just you there.
Yeah, it's such beautiful photography though. Like, I always love everything that you post. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
So talented, and just it's so nice that I really hear your story, and so much that I didn't know that you were doing now. Like, so many overlaps as well with like the sharing circles and things like that. That it's just it's really so inspiring. Such an inspiring woman, and I'm so grateful that you came here to do this today, and it's so nice that we connect. Thank you so much.